Welcome back. So we've finished the nervous system for a weeker. So as we start the next topic, what I have created, and I'm really excited about this, is some content that comes into my coaching, nervous system, neurodiverse world. And when I first started training, I was introduced to a book by Marshall B. Rosenberg called Nonviolent Communication. And through my experience over the years, I think most people that I work with really struggle with relationships, conflict, especially in relationships. So I thought what we will do over the next 4 weeks is combine these two worlds where we start to feel a little bit more curious and a little bit safer in relationships. So therefore our nervous systems are not so activated. So we will be obviously looking at the nervous system, our capacity, because when we then perceive things that really aren't there. And if you look at rejection sensitivity, that will all depend on how much capacity we've got. It was really interesting. So yesterday, on the weekend, Sunday, I had a really long race, 22 miles, and I knew yesterday, Monday, that I was going to be really tired. So one of the first questions in my journal every single day is how much capacity do I have, physically and mentally? And yesterday I was probably operating on a 2 out of 10. I have the call, we have our men's group, our relentless group is 8 a.m. on a Monday morning. I was kind of rushing around trying to get things ready for work, and my partner, was talking to me about other stuff during the day, and I was just overwhelmed with it all. And, I got triggered. I'm not, this is about reality, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? This is not about being able to kind of walk on water and being perfect and all this kind of shit. It's just not reality. I got triggered and I snapped back at her and I behaved like a brat, do you know? And it was because it was all too much for me. It was just too much for my system. I got overwhelmed. I later apologised for my behaviour. And, for me, that's continual learning about how much capacity do I have. And then we will look through our relational awareness through the lens of ADHD trauma, and then being able to kind of incorporate this non-violent communication into it. So I'm really excited. So the core message from this training here of the first week is your emotional reaction is not always the truth of the situation. It's a nervous system pattern shaped by your past. So yesterday was a great example of that. So my perception of what was going on was not the reality. That was a defensive reaction to my partner just literally asking me if I could take the trainers that I wore on the Sunday for the race and put them out in the shed because they were stinking the upstairs cupboard out. That was literally all she asked me, and I overreacted. So it's so important that we are attuned to our capacity. So that's where I was going to start with it. I was going to start with my own personal experience, and that was what came up for me yesterday, because I'm sure everyone can relate to that. So then, this is the concept that I've been working on over the last couple of months about thinking about our body as a smoke alarm, our internal smoke alarm through trauma, through ADHD, neurodiversity. Neurodivergence, it gets either hypersensitive, where the concept of we burn the toast so we then ring the fire brigade constantly. Every time the smoke alarm goes off, we ring the fire brigade. So that's rejection sensitivity. We misread situations, we misread body language, we misread tone of voice, we misread situations, and we constantly ring up the fire brigade. So that's fight or flight. Versus, we get so pissed off with the fire alarm keep going off that we take the battery out. So that will look like disconnected, disassociated, apathy, lethargy, low mood, depression. And then you've got fawning in there. You've got the people pleasing bit. So don't forget that people pleasing it's a survival trait, and it's an adaptation of a time in our lives where fight or flight was not an option. If we were a child, it wasn't safe for us to run away, and we definitely couldn't fight back. So therefore we adapted to appeasing, fawning. And that is where you sacrifice yourself for the sake of somebody else. As long as the other person is okay, then we are going to be okay. And then that just manifests into adult life. So therefore we need to start to be realistic about this. When I talk about befriending your fear, being curious about it, this is not pressing the panic button. This is about understanding what is actually going on here. So noticing when we get triggered, just pausing a little bit. I didn't pause yesterday, I just reacted. If I'd have paused, I would have noticed that I was overwhelmed. And I was overwhelmed because I perceived that I didn't have enough time, because I was running late to get on the call. And because I had low capacity, I then reacted. So pause, slow down. Ask yourself, actually what is going on here? Is it I've just burnt the toast? I don't need to ring the fire brigade. I don't need to hit the panic button. Versus, is the chip pan on fire? Or, listening to your body. Okay, so what is my body trying to tell me? Probably trying to tell me that I need to take care of itself. I need to look after it a little bit more. I need to maybe put a little bit of self-care in. I maybe need to get away from this desk and go outside and have a walk around the block. Or I maybe need to go and sit in the garden for 5 minutes. Or I need to go and sit in that chair for 5 minutes and just breathe. I'm starting to get overwhelmed. No need to ring the fire brigade yet. I can put a smoke blanket over, or a fire blanket turn the gas or the electric off, the hob off, and put a fire blanket over the chip pan. Because what happens is, especially those of us that are neurodiverse, we are continually in this cycle of burnout. So therefore we don't pay attention to the smoke alarm. It's going off. Now the house is on fire. And then we crash. So we are more prone to emotional dysregulation. So start paying attention to what is going on. When am I going to become more overwhelmed? How does this impact me specifically? So incorporating more recovery. Knowing when to go and when not to go. When to put your foot on the gas, when not to. Understanding that. What does that specifically look like for you? So we are more prone to overreactions that burn bridges. So you've got ADHD plus childhood trauma, potentially, because we are more receptive to trauma, because of the sensitivity. So we are kind of more prone to it. So it's less capacity for pauses and higher reactivity. So think about this as a protocol. Notice your body. Name the reaction. This is fear. This is shame. This is overwhelm. This is familiar. I'm okay. Navigate from your I am safe, not the urgency. So I've got some questions here for you to reflect on. Just checking in my notes. So I've written this down. Where do I react before I reflect? So what situations do you implode or explode at? Where do you get overwhelmed? How can you get a little bit more regulation in there and reflect a little bit more? When do I feel misunderstood? What's actually happening in my body? So again, look at your capacity. Look at, are you overstimulated? Are you overwhelmed? What expectations am I placing on the other person that they never agreed to? So my partner, she didn't agree to me blowing up yesterday morning. She just asked me to put my trainers in the shed. That was all she did. And she got a 5-year-old throwing a tantrum for like 30 seconds. I think I picked them up and just slung them in the garden. And then ran upstairs here. It's pathetic. Not I'm pathetic, but my behaviour was pathetic. So we are going to look now at relationships as a map. Because they are often not, as I've just explained, not the other person's responsibility. as a therapist, I will continually get people coming into therapy and blaming the other person. What responsibility are you taking for what's gone off in this situation? If I'm doing couples therapy, or like, you know, somebody comes in and like starts moaning about people, there's 4 or 5, 6 people like that are, you know, that have got a vendetta against them. Well, who's the common denominator in this? What responsibility are you taking for this? Because is this around your, you know, where are your expectations of these other people? And that's not condoning shitty behaviour. So your triggers are not the other person's responsibility. You are your roadmap to growth. So for me, the growth in yesterday was just slow down a bit. Maybe plan my morning a little bit better. Maybe a bit clearer on what I was and what I couldn't do in the morning. Try to cram loads in. I had a busy weekend. I had family all day Saturday, and then I was out running all day Sunday. It was a 5-hour run. So I did, like, generally I will do a little bit of admin over the weekend, or record some content, or do something, or answer some messages that I get, emails. Not a lot, but a little bit. I didn't do any of that. So I had a build up, and I perceived that I had to get it all done then. And it overwhelmed me, and I didn't have a lot of capacity anyway. So like, let's revisit my little story yesterday. So what did Jo actually say? All she said to me was, can you put your trainers in the shed because they stink? What was my story in that? My story in that was that she was attacking me. She wasn't attacking me at all. She just didn't particularly want our house smelling of my stinking trainers. So what physical signals come up for me? I got overwhelmed. I became tight. Everything started narrowing. I got overwhelmed. So what did I do to regulate and anchor? Well, I didn't actually until I got upstairs. And then I got upstairs and I sat in this chair, and then I grounded. I put my feet on the floor. I felt myself in the back of the chair, and I breathed. And as soon as I started to regulate, I thought to myself, what a dick. What a dick. That behaviour was unacceptable. And the gift in this was, what am I able to do for me? It's always important to look at the gift. What is the gift in this situation for me? Gift in this situation is for me is to be able to prioritise my time a bit better, to be able to regulate myself a little bit better, to be able to have a little bit more space first thing in the morning without cramming loads in. Because then what happens is I don't get overwhelmed. So therefore then my relationships flourish. I have more capacity. I'm calmer, I'm happier. So this is something that you can learn. This is such an empowering thing, because generally most people feel disempowered. This is probably one of the most empowering things that I can do for myself and for you, is for you to be able to take the gift in something, because it's empowering. What responsibility am I going to take for my behaviour in this? Because I could give you a narrative, well, she shouldn't have said that to me in the morning. How dare she? She should have known that I didn't have any time. No, not at all. So radical self-responsibility. Can you stay connected in the moment even when your nervous system is screaming? Can you know that you are safe? So exercise. For you, pause before reacting. Even if it's just 3 seconds, all you got to do is just put a little bit of space in between it. In between the physical feeling and then the explosion. Journal. What do I make things mean in relationships? What's the narrative? What's the story that you tell yourself? Is it a victim mentality? Generally, when we are disempowered, we are a victim. So this is non-verbal. This is the first bit of this non-verbal communication. So state what you observed, how you feel, and what you need. So what did I observe? How I felt. I felt overwhelmed, overstimulated. And what I needed was space. I needed to create a bit of space. And then can you try to be more aware of where you're at, capacity-wise? How do you experience overwhelm? How do you experience overstimulation? How do you experience activation? How do you experience fear in your body, felt sense? Tense, shortness of breath, hot. Maybe it's brain fog. Maybe like it's your world starts to narrow in. I've got some questions here. I've got some coaching questions for you. These I want you to go away and journal on. Okay. What nervous system story are you confusing for relationship truth? So is this a past experience? I don't know what your history is, but like, is it past? My narrative is that I need to be in control. I am fiercely independent. Or that was. I'm working on that. What expectation do you have of others that might be rooted in your fear, not their behaviour? Expectation yesterday was that, she shouldn't ask that. It's ridiculous. What's the pattern you keep blaming on your partner but haven't taken ownership of? So that was, like, for me, was the ownership thing of being fiercely independent. So what is it like to be vulnerable in a relationship? What's one moment this week where you could have paused instead of pounced? Well, that was mine. What's the gift in your latest trigger? The gift is to plan better, to regulate more, to have more capacity. So I'm going to leave you with this. The goal this week isn't to be perfect. It's to pause, to notice, to choose a different response. Even just once. If you can start to pull it apart and get in that little bit in the middle where you can start to create a gap. Most people think that they react from 0 to 100. That's not true. There is a bit in the middle. Can you start to pull that apart and to let that be the start of something different? What's it like in that middle bit? Thank you very much.